Joining us right now, Joe DiGenova. He is former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, and he's forgotten more about the law than Dan and I will ever know. Joe. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
So I want to turn to this showdown that is looming in the House of Representatives. Actually, it's between the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office. But right now, the showdown seems to be between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. This is over the funding of the Department of Homeland Security, which includes, of course, Border Patrol and all immigration issues. And, of course, the sticking point, Joe DiGenova, is the president's executive actions that gave legal status to over 5 million people who have been in the country illegally. The Speaker of the House does not want to fund that. The Republicans don't want to fund it. They just won an election saying they wouldn't fund it, and yet Democrats are holding it up. Here was John Boehner yesterday talking about what the ramifications may be.
And what if the Department of Homeland Security funding runs out?
Well, then Senate Democrats should be to blame, very simply.
And you're prepared to let that happen?
Certainly. The House is active. We've done our job.
Okay, so Joe DiGenova, first of all, what are the ramifications in terms of very real issues with Department of Homeland Security and the employees not getting paid and the departments not getting funded?
Well, first of all, the Senate and the House could also pass a continuing resolution for that part of the budget. They can fund it at the current levels, and I think probably we're headed toward that, some sort of temporary funding bill to keep it at the current levels until they can work this out. The problem is it isn't going to be worked out, and we're going to be at a stalemate because the Democrats have dug in. Since they lost the election, they've decided the best thing to do is to continue to make the Republicans the enemy. And so far, with the assistance of the mainstream media, that has worked successfully. So that's why I was happy to see Boehner stick to his guns yesterday and blame the Democrats publicly. This is something the Republicans have refused to do over the years. They've always sat around and talked about my colleagues in the Senate, on the other side of the aisle. What the Republicans have to do is do what the Democrats do. They have to demonize the Democrats. And Boehner got started on that yesterday, and it's an important thing for all Republicans to continue to blame the Democrats in the Senate for holding up the funding of the Homeland of DHS. We'll see whether or not they can stick to their guns and present a common message. But as you know, this is where the Republicans' Achilles heel is, the inability to deliver a message repeatedly on theme.
Yeah, and Joe, what infuriates me about this is it's just factually correct to say that the department has been funded by the House.
Correct.
The bill has been signed, has been sent to the Senate, and Democratic senators are the ones that are saying, no, it's either our way or the highway. I mean, there's nothing inaccurate about that.
That is absolutely correct. In fact, it is the Democratic senators in the United States Senate who are filibustering the passage of the bill. It is very important that Republicans continue to repeat this theme. It's the only thing that works in our modern society. The thematics of this are important. The substance is fairly obvious. It's not a complicated issue. The Republicans want to defund the part of the bill that the president has used to do these basically his phony amnesty, if I may borrow his phrase, phony. and the bottom line is this: Republicans have to stick to their guns. So this is a test. This is an early test of whether or not Republicans are capable of messaging. And that's what this fight is about. It's about messaging, because the ultimate result is who's going to get blamed. That's messaging.
And you know what's strange about this, Joe? This is an issue with the recent revelations about people coming here illegally, having access to earned income tax credits. In other words, getting tax refunds for taxes they never even paid.
Right.
With the potential, of course, Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State, who came out and said that there's potential for some illegal voting to occur with this program. And then, of course, the, I think, liberal-leaning John Koskinen at the IRS coming out in the hearing and saying, hey, listen, no one in the White House even asked us about this program. This is a really horribly unpopular program. If they can't stick to their guns on this, is there any hope, Joe?
Well, I think this really is a test of leadership and a test of the resolve of the Republicans in the House and the Senate. By the way, don't mention Koskinen to me, because once I get started on that, I get on my favorite subject, which is he should be removed from office. The nonsense of having that clown come up there and lie to the committees repeatedly. He is the most arrogant, civil servant I have ever seen. He's a political appointee.
And he's proud of
really
it.
Not a civil servant. The guy should be impeached. I would have an impeachment committee and have that SOB out so fast it would make his head spin.
Are you concerned, Joe, since you brought it up, are you concerned that the IRS scandal is sort of waning here with all the other business?
Oh, there's no question that the woman that they put in charge, Barbara Bosserman in the Department of Justice, a large campaign political contributor to the president and Democratic causes, it is a disgrace that the Department of Justice has left her in charge of this investigation. It is a disgrace that she, as a lawyer, accepted the appointment to that job to do this so-called investigation, which is a sham, that she accepted it. I think it was the ethics of accepting that appointment are open to considerable question. But the truth is, there is no investigation, criminal investigation of the IRS thing, and it is disgraceful. And the Republicans in the Senate should start pounding it. They should pound it to a fare thee well.
Hey, Joe, speaking of lots of desk pounding in the Senate, the nomination of Attorney General nominee or prospective Attorney General Loretta Lynch has now been put off for a couple more weeks. Democrats are crying foul. Is this a smart move? Do they have the political will to hold this up, and should they hold up the president's nominee?
They should do anything they can to continue to get documents in the House and the Senate, which the Justice Department and the State Department and the CIA have refused to produce in the Benghazi case and other related cases like the IRS. Let's remember, the Republicans now control both houses. They have the power of the purse. They have the power of subpoena. They are proceeding on all fronts. As far as I can tell, everything is as it should be, and I believe holding up nominations is one of the most powerful weapons they have at their disposal, and I don't believe a single federal judge for any position, federal district judge, federal appellate judge, nobody should be confirmed until they get documents from the IRS, the Department of State, and others. This is the way you fight. You don't give them anything they want.
You know, Joe, I'm glad you brought up, Koskinen, because it speaks to a larger issue. I was listening to a hearing just recently, one of the Benghazi hearings, and they had a State Department rep up there. And the arrogance of the bureaucracy, the administrative state, is just appalling. These people work for us. They go up there and they lecture us. They speak to us like a bunch of the great unwashed,
That's why defunding agencies is important. That's why when they cut the IRS budget, you heard Koskinen screaming about, all of our service is going to go down. You know what? Let it happen, baby. The one thing that the vampires in the civil service survive on is appropriated funds. And if you want to take their blood away, the way you do it is you defund. You could cut billions, and it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference.
You didn't get the memo. Elijah Cummings spoke to the union that represents IRS tax collectors and said people come work for the government to feed their soul, Joe.
Right. No, it's never the annuity, right? It's never the annuity. Listen, Elijah Cummings has become a hack. He used to be a pretty decent guy, but he has sadly become an awful hack. And you know what? He's not even effective anymore because it's so repetitive that he sounds so silly every time he yak-a-moles it. It's unbelievable.
All right, Joe DiGenova, thanks for joining us as always. Getting our week started off.
Defund.
All right, Joe. Thanks.